Greetings, flesh creatures. It is I, Megatron. On behalf of TFYLP, I want to congratulate you for listening to the most refined collective podcast on this miserable little planet Earth. Yes. Here you'll find knowledgeable fans discussing every aspect of Transformers and beyond. Now, enjoy the show while I continue my path to complete conquest of all of you miserable biological entities. Predacons, terrorize!
Hi, welcome to TFYLP episode, is it 492? 493, I believe. I'm Lucas. I'm joined tonight by Phil.
Hey!
And Paul.
Hello.
And Rob.
Hi.
Hey, Rob. It's been a minute.
Been a minute.
So there you go. So Rob was all excited because we have more rumors or something. I don't know. I feel like we always have rumors. Just like every week we just call it the rumor show, right?
Rob heard there was going to be a list of rumors read by Christian, and he just wanted to come in and interrupt Christian all night.
Paint that easy of a target on yourself. Someone's going to shoot it.
Exactly. So, and if we can have some Cybertron or, Energon or something like that too, so we can all talk about that.
Well, we do. You're right. Like, there's leaks every week, and we talk about them, and we make a whole topic out of it. But like, that's not really the ethos of TFYLP. That's not what Duran maybe built the show off of. It's usually a topic, like a discussion topic, episode by episode.
Yeah, but then Duran did 400 episodes of different topics, and so it's kind of hard to pick a new one.
Right.
Yeah, well, it is. That's okay. It's
Topics.
okay to do. It's okay to redo topics. Time goes by.
All right. So we can go ahead and have a live topic change for you, Paul. What do you want to suggest as a topic here?
Oh, I thought the topic was, Transformers toy leaks. Why do they happen? How do they happen?
Yeah, I think that was
how to
was
identify them. So,
something like that. Yeah. So
He built this podcast on rock and roll, according to Zeldron.
there you go.
I'm just saying, like every other show is like, here's the leaks, and and it's you can't not talk about them, but we're just a little different sometimes.
We try to be more timeless with the topics, but that doesn't mean you can't win them all. Or you can't hit that every time. It becomes really tough.
That went out the window, Rob, like when I took over, and now
we kept it up pretty good for a while there, but lately I think we've been struggling to come up with topics.
Yeah.
And Hasbro just keeps supplying us with new leaks and new reveals, so it's like, I guess we'll just talk about that.
Right, exactly.
It reminds me, I literally don't buy much Hasbro these days. Like, it's just gotten less and less, and I've missed it less and less. But it reminds me of, it used to be like when we got near like a Fun Pub show that we would start seeing factory leaks and maybe some other leaks about what the set was going to be about, at least, or things of that nature. Some of that stuff would start coming out, and so that was always like kind of exciting at the time. But then,
Rob, you know what we're close to?
No, we're not. No, we're not.
TFCon
in October. Yeah, TFCon.
There is a show by the people that ran Fun Pub or something. I don't know who all is involved, but
the main people involved didn't have anything to do with it. And doing that, but it's like now that we don't have those shows with official exclusives anymore, and Hasbro just. And I know we've talked about this because I think it was a topic I suggested like a year ago or something. It's kind of supplanted what we used to get from the Collectors Club. The real nerdy stuff. It's like we get that stuff constantly throughout the year now through Amazon and Pulse exclusives and all that crap.
Well, I think it's a little bit interesting this year. I feel like it's kind of switched from, we had a lot of Generation Selects that came out last year, and this year it seems like it's all retail exclusives or retailers. So, it's like Amazon and Walmart and Target are like buying up all those exclusives. So then, I don't know if that's part of it or if their strategy has just changed a little bit with that. But I've noticed.
I think the strategy is whoever will pay us, we'll sell them toys. I think that's the strategy.
That's pretty much.
It's a good strategy. I would recommend it if you're a toy company.
Right. If you're a publicly traded company, if people want to give you money, sure.
This guy buy your mutton chops is onto something.
It does feel like that's like whatever doesn't get eaten up becomes a Gen Select, because it almost seems those Beast Wars toys that Walmart sold are just kind of weird and out there. Like each of those could have possibly been a Selects. We don't have as many this year as previous years, but we did get a Titan and all those Shattered Glass toys, which I personally believe originally were like slated in the Generation Selects box. But
a lot of the wreckers feel like they would have been Gen Selects, like the Springer and his toy colors, the G2 Leadfoot. Those felt like they would have been.
No, those are so bad. Those are definitely always going to be retailer exclusives, in my opinion.
What do you think makes the difference between a retailer exclusive and a Selects release? To me, it's just whatever's nerdy can go into either one. Whoever buys it, if nobody buys it, they'll crunch the numbers and see if they think they can do it themselves.
I think it's retailer input, actually.
Really? To what degree?
Yeah. Probably not much. Probably like one meeting,
Well, I mean, like
literally.
What is Jeff Bezos gonna say? You know what? Always did want to see that toy.
Bezos is not in the meeting.
I know, but I'm like, what suit's gonna know anything about it? Although I don't know, we're fucking 40, so maybe
these are toy buyers. Like someone like went into this job out of college at a retailer, and like they're probably some people land in Walmart buying golf equipment or grills or whatever the category they manage, and like that's what they probably stick with and just hop around companies. So someone that hopefully the people that got into toys are into toys, but not all of them are. But if you are into toys, you can make some amazing decisions that maybe affect, what you're going to sell. But you have to do that consistently across every toy line in the category. So if you're a Transformer nerd that's buying toys for X, Y, and Z company, once a year you get to have the meeting with Hasbro where you get to get excited because you get to see what's coming and do that stuff. But and I'm saying you may have some input. Like I think Velocitron and the Wrecker set, I bet those were like up for grabs for either company. And then when Amazon took the Wreckers theme, they're like, okay, we're gonna make all these boxes be a similar. They kind of fit a mold with Amazon. Amazon like seems to want to do something a little more special than you want to not be like those Beast Wars toys that were sold at Walmart are they're just like extra legacy toys that got shoehorned
no special
in.
packaging, no little story trying to wrap them together, no stupid cardboard hammer to make.
Yeah, but Velocitron's a little different, but still, it's like, we're going to do this. Are you going to take it? Yeah, okay, great.
Yeah, Ron brings up about those the Street Fighter toys getting a rerun, and that was just the weirdest thing that those are Target exclusives. Like it's just it's crazy to me to have something that came out years ago and it's almost vintage at this point.
Well, to me, it's just it wasn't popular that I'm aware of. I mean, maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, it'd be like that Astro Train and Blitzwing Platinum they did with the funky colors. Like that's actually kind of expensive now, especially given how hard clearance it was. So I wonder if like somebody looks like, oh, look, it's twice what it sold. We should do another run of it. It's like, dude, like that barely sold in the first place. You're many years after the fact. Like it's just gonna rot again. And that's how it feels the Street Fighter stuff is. I don't know, maybe it sold like gangbusters, but I don't think it did.
I feel like every exclusive eventually like ends up being worth a ton of money. Like it doesn't matter what it is. Like if it's like 3 years down the line, it ends up being expensive.
There's plenty of Fun Pups toys that would prove that false.
Well,
a lot of them go for what you paid originally or less. But that's, I mean,
especially
right.
later.
I'm saying retailer exclusives more than the Fun Pub stuff. But
okay.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I feel like a lot of that Velocitron stuff too seems like deep cuts at this point. You know, there's just like there's a lot of female characters in there and repaints and such, and you know there's some G2 in there. I mean, it's just and I don't know, maybe that's part of it is that if the retailers are willing to take on some of those deep cuts, it's like, why put them in Gen Selects?
I mean, the last Amazon set had a lot of deep cuts. I mean, Action Master Jackpot, Mutant Head Tigatron. Those are not, Optimus Prime, Bumblebee, and Starscream and Megatron.
They're not things that Fairweather fans are even remotely familiar with. Like a Black Prime, they can at least understand. You know. Everything else, though, no clue.
But hey, at least on the leader packs now, they got rid of that stupid, like, surprise packaging, so you could actually see what it is on the, like there's a picture of the toy that you're going to be buying on the outside of the package. You don't have to just be like, surprise, what is this big $60 box?
No. We want it to be a surprise that Ultra Magnus wears this poncho. So we're going to put it in a secret box.
That whole thing makes me feel bad because I feel like someone in marketing was super excited about this idea and they wanted to have this thing and they thought it'd be fun, it'd be cool, and they tried to push it. And it's just like, I'm sorry, man, your idea kind of sucks. It's harmless, but it was also dumb and nobody cares. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, friend. It didn't work.
They're trying to capture the magic of the mystery toys unboxing from like all the YouTube videos. And it's like, no, the people who buy this stuff don't care about that.
This is what happens when corporate culture says, like, there's no bad ideas, guys. Everything goes up on the wall. Like, well, that maybe shouldn't. Ideas. There's lots of bad ideas. There's lots of dumb questions, too. But when you don't punish people for making those, some of it rises to the top.
That person might be fired. You don't know that. I hope they lost their job.
I hope they're dead.
But why is there no more black Play-Doh is the question.
Is there not?
Not in the new league.
Not in the new sets.
Sorry, Rob.
I mean,
I know you're excited for that, but
I blame shrinkflation.
There was shrinkage.
See, I feel like that the Play-Doh guys had some numbers to meet last year, and so they're like, how are we gonna sell just a little bit extra Play-Doh this year? And they just let's throw it in this Transformer set.
At the Hasbro company mixer, they're like, hey, how would you like to buy some excess Play-Doh we got? Putting your little Transformers, kids can dig around it for Energon cubes. Yeah, you like that? We'll just send you over a couple vats of it.
There's some VP somewhere that made his bonus because of that, man.
Yeah, Greg Lombardo. He moved from Transformers to Play-Doh. I don't know if he's still there.
Ron just said that person that Rob's talking about got moved to the HasLab Star Wars team.
They not been doing well?
No.
Every Star Wars HasLab is not funded.
No,
Rancor got funded.
50-50. They're 2 for 4. They funded the Jabba's barge and the Razor Crest, and then the Rancor, nope, not funded.
I thought it funded.
No, that's a whole joke, man. That it didn't.
Okay. Oh, wow.
And then the new lightsaber they did from Obi-Wan for the Inquisitor didn't fund either. Didn't come anywhere close. I think it was maybe 20% of its goal.
How many Kickstarter type things generally hit half though? It's kind of like everyone sees it's not going to make it, and so they don't bother. Or everyone's so excited it's already funded before you can blink. I feel like very little is just over the line, and not to say none, but
it's different though when you got the marketing arm of Hasbro behind it. I mean, most Kickstarters don't fund because people don't know about them, whereas Hasbro is, able to buy social media ads and all of that, and your average your average Kickstarter is not going to be able to do that.
And do they? I got shown that stupid Hiss tank is already funded all the way, and they're like, it's the last day. Everybody try it again. And I saw it like 5 times as an advertisement served to me on Faceballs. And I'm like, you're just wasting your money.
I know I saw the lightsaber a decent amount more.
Facebook just keeps trying to serve me patio furniture because I searched for patio furniture once. So
18 years ago.
Here you go.
Well, there's so much action on your Instagram. I'm sure they're just like, it's like AdWords soup for them. They can. You're a very easy to target individual, Rob. You're not.
Oh, yeah. No.
Yeah.
It's like, to tie this back to leaks, to me, I think it shows a difference of, when something was done by FunPub, which was, a small group of people that really knew what was going on. Like, yeah, the factory is one thing, but even then they were able to yell at the factory and those really calmed down. Versus it's Amazon. Like, how many people see everything that's coming through the system? It's Walmart listings. How many poorly paid employees, are going to see all of this? And especially, again, saying older people that are familiar with the brand, that they know, like, oh, I can post this on TFW. That'll be fun. But I think it makes it more likely.
The thing that's weird to me, though, is, and maybe I'm just out of it for the other toy brands, like, I don't see as many leaks for the other, like, companies or even the other Hasbro brands that I do for Transformers. So, like, even if you're going to, like, make that argument and say, oh, yeah, it's in the system, like, why is it that the Star Wars or Marvel Legends or, whatever, pick your other stuff, He-Man stuff, that
do they
why is not or Ninja Turtles? Like, I mean, a lot
Ninja
about
Turtles
Ninja Turtles
is only like NECA and Super 7. That's literally it.
Yeah.
No one cares what Playmates does, and actually some of the Playmates stuff does get known about ahead of time, and it's garbage every time. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, ultimately it's NECA and Super 7, which are probably FunPub sized organizations, or at least the Ninja Turtle side of it, is probably equivalent. Like that. There's only a handful of people. Those aren't large companies; they're boutiques.
To Lucas's point, though, whether it's whether it's G.I. Joe, Star Wars, or Marvel Legends, those are all Hasbro properties, and they don't get leaked nearly to the level that Transformers do, especially to the extent of, reviewers having these things months before they're even in the stores. I just never see that kind of thing happening with those other brands. And maybe the point is like, well, all right, Marvel and just Disney in general keeps the Star Wars and Marvel stuff under wraps more, but even the G.I. Joe stuff doesn't leak that much.
So my argument with that too is that Transformers is as much a brand in Asia as it is here. And I mean, it really is a global brand. And so I think that that's part of it is there's more interest. Like, there's just not a lot of interest in G.I. Joe or in Star Wars, like, over in Asia. There's just not. And so I think that that's where a lot of these leaks are coming from.
I would wish I knew more about the manufacturing. Like, it makes sense to me that Transformers are more difficult to produce than a Marvel Legend. And so I've always wondered, like, and this is just purely just trying to make a guess, that seems like it could be right, but it's totally founded on literally nothing, is that the lead time on them is more than what is on a Marvel Legend. And so it just gets more time for that stuff to get out. It's a guess.
Yeah, that makes sense. A lot of times when you're thinking about this stuff, when I hear people talk about it, they still forget, like, time is a major component to this. The lead time on a Transformer is like 2 years. Like they've already got the next year of stuff planned. At least, like, they're gonna make it, but like, do they know which retailer is gonna get it, or is it like, where is it gonna land in like the ecosystem of the brand at this time? They maybe don't know, but they have to make. It takes so long for the product to get made that they have to plan it out. So, like, they got to make those molds and everything. And so, yeah, I guess I didn't really think of it that way, that it could take like a Marvel Legend might take a month to get actual, like, hey, we're producing this, we're gonna build it, we're gonna package it. Maybe it only takes a month, because really it's like what, 6 to 12 parts. That's like a core class toy has more parts than that.
And most Marvel Legends are significant reuse of parts.
Right.
Yeah. Like, so you don't need new tooling for all that.
Right.
You know, or even then when you make
need
the
your
buck,
head.
you just make 4 of the buck. You know, you don't have to do new CAD engineer or, you know, designs for it or anything. It's a lot more of it's ready to go. It's not to say, you know, Marvel Legends also get new parts all the time, but it's not every figure is all the same parts. The only thing shared is just design. You know, Combiner Wars the leg. Let's do that again, but it's completely different this time. But
even still, that's like a 30 to 40 part toy.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just always, when I think about it, I'm like, Transformers are just severe. They're trying to either those doll toys are severely inflated in how much they actually cost to get made. Like maybe they cost 15 cents per figure or something, and they're selling them for 20, 24 at this point. And you're selling a Transformer that is like 10 times the complexity at the same price point. Like either those things are inflated so much that they can sell the Transformers at like a break-even point, or
they've actually
they're just taking a fucking loss on them. I don't know.
I don't think they're taking a loss, but what I've heard is that, you know, Hasbro doesn't own Star Wars and Marvel, and I think they've talked about this. They're like their licensing fee is so high, and so I swear they've asked them this before, like, you know, in a Q&A or something. They're like, well, then why is G.I. Joe the same price? And they're like, well, now you're getting to perceived value, and they don't want G.I. Joe to come out at $17 and Star Wars, which is almost the same toy, and Marvel Legends, which is the same toy, $24. And then people start saying, well, these other ones are too expensive now. So since they're all kind of like a very similar product line, everything gets the same price. Highest one wins, right? Well, and it'd be different if G.I. Joe toys were warming the shelves. But my understanding is those things are fought over by scalpers a lot, but I don't keep up with it either.
I think that's funny, because if that was me getting asked that question about my company, I'd give them a big ol' F you. Like, you don't get to know what this stuff costs. Like, you can guess all you want. That is a need-to-know basis, and we are a private company, so yeah. Actually, they're not.
I remember that's where perceived value came from. That's where I want to say I first heard that term, and I thought, you know, it's very self-explanatory. The second year, it's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. You know, you can't ever go.
They're basically saying
prices never go down.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
But the other thing too, though, is you have to remember that, like, G.I. Joe, even if like it's somewhat popular, like I would just venture to guess that the runs for Marvel Legends and Star Wars is higher than G.I. Joe, just in general. I know Rick's like mentioned that.
I would think
like the top G.I. Joe toy like wouldn't outsell the like bottom Transformers kind of thing. It's just like at the time, just because it's like the scale of those things.
So yeah,
especially
I wonder
if that G.I. Joe toy is from the Snake Eyes movie.
Like, the closest I know of any other brand is like sometimes YouTube will recommend, you know, action figure reviews, because maybe sometimes I dabble in Legends. I haven't bought anything in a while, but you know, like, yeah, but I'll see Prime versus Prime has literally every toy 6 months before it hits the shelves, right? I'm exaggerating a bit, but he gets everything stolen from the factory. And I don't see the Toy Bro with, you know, NECA figures before they come out. It's like, no, he gets them early if NECA sends them to him, which they do sometimes. You know, but that's it. You don't see third-party stuff leaked either in that way. Now, third-party advertises for their stuff 7 years before the damn thing comes out. So, you know, whatever, like, this finally came out, the X-Transbot Springer. Like, we've been knowing about that for so many years, but you don't see like leaked third-party stuff. It's, if anything, it's review copies they sent out early.
That's a point, though, Rob, that I wanted to talk about in terms of advertising of what's coming out. if you watch the live streams for some of the other Hasbro toy lines, what they've started doing a lot for both G.I. Joe and Star Wars is talking about their figure pipeline. And like, hey, these are the figures that are going to be coming out in the next year or so. Like San Diego with the G.I. Joe panel, they talked about, hey, here are 4 figures. We can, show you just the grayscale, tooling for them. We don't have them ready yet. They won't be out until next year. But that's almost similar to what the third-party toys are doing in terms of kind of priming the pump for the fans to get ready to order them. Black Series does that too. Not so much showing the grayscale molds, but they'll show like, hey, here's the 6 characters that are going to be in this wave that we're going to show you the pictures of 6 months from now. So here's just their names and like a screen grab from them from the movie or TV show they're from. Whereas Transformers, it's because they don't do any of that. Yeah, the leakers get to all of that stuff beforehand.
Do they still do the Transformer Tuesday or Fan First Friday or whatever?
There actually is a Transformers Tuesday tomorrow, I think, right? Am I wrong?
It is a Tuesday. Is it not every Tuesday? Is it just when they do it?
No, there just happens to be one, I think, next Tuesday. I don't know if you got that email there, Rob, in your inbox from Hasbro. You're not a Pulse Premium member there?
Oh, sir.
No? Okay, fair enough.
Now, it makes sense to me that, especially if you're making stuff aimed at adult collectors, that why wouldn't you control, kind of like the narrative of the stuff coming out? Like, why wouldn't you be hyping that, to a reasonable degree or whatever, given how, I don't know, I think it works for us or whatever. But we've seen how many times where like they did a reveal and they reveal like stuff that was leaked a month before and you could tell they were pissed off by it. Mm-hmm. And then maybe they tell you one new thing. And then, like, literally 3 hours later, some other thing leaks that they obviously had time to talk about and is in a pretty finished state, and they just don't mention it. It's like, so I feel they kind of, I don't know if it's because they're like, marketing's like, no, you need to focus on like 2 or 3 things, and that's all you're allowed to do. And it's like, that's not the way the internet works anymore, friend.
Well, the thing that's a little wild to me is like they've shown off some like test shots of things on their streams. And I swear that like some of the toy reviewers already have like the finished copy. One. It's like, oh well, we could just go over to this other guy where this guy got his figure off the back of a truck.
Got it. Why doesn't for Transformers Tuesday? Why don't they just have it guest hosted by Prime versus Prime?
Right there you go.
To just put the 2 together and done.
Again, another interesting thing that Marvel Legends has embraced is Marvel Legends will let toy reviewers do announcements.
Really?
So they did. Yeah, there was an Amazon 5-pack last year. Maybe it was even early. No, it was last year, and it was all kind of centered around the X-Men. And like I think it was one day a week for the 5 weekdays. A different toy reviewer had one of the figures to review and show off, and then it was like the last day it was like, here's the format of how all this is coming out.
That's cool.
So yeah, so like Shartimus had one, a few other review websites and YouTube channels had one. It wasn't a full wave, it was an Amazon exclusive, so that maybe makes a little bit of a difference, but yeah, it was different, it was neat, it was nice to see them involve the community in that regard.
Well, Hasbro one time had a wall of Transformer personalities behind them that weren't allowed to speak. So,
I do love somehow that Hasbro's partnering with a guy named Shartimus.
Shartimus Prime.
Yeah,
it's funny because
you think someone would pull the plug on that. Be like, really, guys? We're using Shartimus? Like, how about we use Billy Jenkins? Like, just anything.
Yeah. I think it's good because it shows the world's moved on in a way. Like the people making decisions, they realize it doesn't matter. Oh no, Granny knickers in a twist over Shartimus.
I don't know. That shit's embarrassing. I'd be embarrassed. I'm embarrassed for that guy.
Well, I've thought about it. Like, how many people picked like an online handle 15 years ago, 20 years ago, and they're just like stuck with it now. Like that's their brand. That's what they've known as. And it's just like, there's no changing it now.
He
doesn't even review. He rarely reviews a Transformer anyways.
How many names does Puff Daddy have? He's changed his screen name many times. He's a
millionaire. He's a multi-millionaire who doesn't really matter. If you're Shartimus Prime, he's constantly talked about, I got to go work back at the guitar store because YouTube ain't paying me crap right now.
Oh, are you saying the guy named Shartimus isn't a millionaire?
No YouTube reviewer for action figures is a millionaire that I'm aware of to begin with. Some of them do make a living, but
Ryan, the toy kid, yeah, he is.
Who? I don't know who that is.
Phil knows, the kid.
Ryan's toy reviews, you're not up to speed with that, Rob?
I feel like there's a joke I'm missing.
It's not. It's a real thing. The kids.
Oh wait, yes. I do know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
He has like toys in the toy aisles. Like when you go,
and like they're not even good videos or something. It's just him there talking. They're not edited or nothing, and he somehow got millions of views. And because kids like to hear what other kids think.
Exactly.
And the parents say, "Here's an iPad." Kind of. Well, now videos targeted towards kids are no longer allowed to generate income, so joke's on him.
And I'm sure that's why he's got his own toy line now. I've seen his toy reviews. He's doing okay for himself there. He's not hurting too much with those new YouTube restrictions.
Well, does Shartimus Prime review Ryan's toys in his new toy line?
I don't think so.
That's why he's missing out.
Yeah. No, the other.
Does Ryan leak his own toy line?
I think so.
He should.
The other way to make sure you're not stuck with an embarrassing handle is to get like banned from multiple websites multiple times. So then you have to come up with a new handle constantly.
You're gonna like somehow call into being like one of the people I'm gonna have to block here, Phil.
Oh no, I was actually referring to a cast member.
Yeah, I was about to say, I know one of our cast members. I've probably friended on Facebook at least 4 times. And his name currently on Facebook, I don't even know where that came from, but
Fleabry, my favorite friend.
Yes.
So what I would like to, so we've been talking about Hasbro brands and briefly mentioned Ninja Turtles, which again, the boutiques are only where the place the action is there. Like, I think Mattel would be an interesting comparison. Like, again, I don't know crap about Mattel, but since they took He-Man back over a few years ago, does any of their stuff leak?
There was sort of an issue that came up. These toy things happen and everyone flips out for 5 minutes and then the next day they forget. But there was someone that found some He-Man figures on the shelf or something. Like they were literally in the store and he got them and did reviews of them. And Mattel dropped the hammer on the video because they had not promoted it. They were.
He bought it in a store.
Yes, and so this is also someone that had a relationship with Mattel.
So he did it as a favor, kind of.
No, he just did it, and then Mattel's like, you can't.
No, I mean, he took them down as a
copyright strike. No, they got boned.
You copyrighted strike something you bought at a fucking store
because that's what YouTube doesn't give a shit.
Yeah, anyone can make a claim, and so I remember that. Or was it I thought it was Jurassic Park.
That's right. Don't listen to me.
But it was Jurassic Park stuff, and it was literally the normal big reviewers for Jurassic Park stuff. They just happened to find it. In the store, and they reviewed it and got copyright strikes against them.
Yeah.
That makes me angry.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
it's funny. They're just saying that in the chat too. They're like catching up as I recall that. They're like, oh yes, it was Jurassic World. So.
Yeah, so I mean that's the world we could live in, but do not. As Transformers
if
fans.
That worked, Hasbro could easily, they could probably start filing trademarks against third-party reviews. That's how so much of third-party advertising is done. A lot of people make their buying decisions off of that. And it doesn't matter if they make the product or not. YouTube's probably like, it's Hasbro, just do what they said. Whatever.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it's corporate interest meets corporate interest, so they typically side with each other. I'm not saying that's good, but it's definitely not. But I mean,
It's interesting.
It's within the realm of the company's rights to do that. It seems like Hasbro understands that would be it would be a bad idea for them, whereas Mattel didn't. And then maybe they're just not, kind of like what you're saying, Rob, is maybe they're just not used to it. Because all these other toy brands just don't have as neurotic of fans as Transformer people do. And like the stars don't align at the factory where it takes an extra 2 months to make everything, so the stuff can get plucked up.
I mean, we talk about how our fans are different. Transformer fans are different. Again, like, I know that like there's a He-Man convention and I think there's a Power Ranger convention too, but like never on the scale of Transformers has had since '94. You know, and they've died down. Even before COVID, they were dying down. But like for a long time there, we had lots of just small local conventions for Transformers. You know, we had like 3 or 4 around the country in the U.S. You know, there's like 1 or 2 big ones, and there were several little ones that went on for a few years. But I've never heard of that for other brands, even though other brands are also huge, but they just don't seem that. And Ninja Turtles has never had one. And that property is like, we don't always know about it, but it's literally never not been on the shelves, you know, other than recently. But
it's weird. I almost think it's just like the demographic of people that Transformers connected with versus the other things. Because, you know, G.I. Joe was huge, and then Transformers was huge, and then He-Man, and then Power Rangers. Like, that is not necessarily a linear, like, oh, you just jump from one to the next one. Some people may have, but, like, I think there's these fan bases that were diehard and very small, but that never deviated from that. And I was considering myself, I've never really deviated from Transformers. I was never into He-Man or G.I. Joe or any of that shit. So, like, that was not the intention when they put this on the shelf and made the brand, but it connected with me, and it clearly connected with a lot of people. But I don't know if that other stuff was more like flash in the pan for the general audience.
Power Rangers has had a pretty strong audience for a very long time. It's just the generation that is into Power Rangers is like younger than us. You know, so there might be 5
like a decade
years
behind
or 10
us.
Years or they're like a decade behind us, whatever.
But
I mean,
Pokemon.
they've had a pretty strong convention presence just in general with those guys. I mean, don't they have like JoeCon or something like that too? I mean,
they did. The last JoeCon was a year after the last BotCon or something like that.
Yeah.
But what I think Rob's saying is there was just, for all those other brands, it's like there is one convention a year, and it's in the same spot every year. But like Transformers,
still nothing like we've had. Our fan community is just, for whatever reason, it's a lot different. And I don't know enough about, again, like the He-Man world to know, like, oh no, there's leaks there all the time. People get stuff stolen, you know, or not. But I think given the ferociousness of our fan base sometimes and just how into it they all are, just everything compounds to make it where it's also we're more likely to get leaks. There's more likely, if there's more of us and more still actively into it, more likely that those people work at Amazon or Walmart or whatever. So there's more chances for people to see it. There's more chances for somebody to live in Vietnam next to the factory, you know, or to be a friend of a friend, you know, that to make those connections. Whereas trying to find the factory where He-Man stuff is made, maybe it's just a lot harder because there's just a lot less people.
So Phil's holding up a bunch of toys. What's up?
Yeah, I'm just saying I never splintered I'm always just been Transformers through and through. I've never splintered my collecting in any way, shape, or form.
I dabble.
You know, I follow some of the toy websites that are kind of general toy websites. Transformers and Marvel are about the only two that I'm like really into the dedicated websites for those. And occasionally you'll see some Marvel leaks, Marvel Legends leaks, like the ones I remember specifically. Like you'll see like the wave list probably maybe a month or two before something gets revealed. But the only time I really have a definitive idea of a definitive recollection of seeing toys before they got announced were the ones with like Eternals. And that was kind of a weird thing because that movie got delayed so much because of COVID. That I'm sure those toys were sitting around a lot longer than they would have been and been revealed a lot sooner. But I mean, yeah, Toy News Eye is a site I go to for kind of general toy news, and I never really see leaks on there, or very rarely see leaks on there. And if it is, it's like, oh, then the next day here comes the big announcement. McFarlane is out there like, hey, here's our stuff, and like sometimes McFarlane stuff is found on shelves before it's even like announced, and it's like there's a new like Black Flash toy that's like, yeah, here's pictures of it at Walmart, and like, all right, Todd hasn't announced this yet, but like Todd McFarlane himself is doing like the promotional videos for a lot of that stuff with the announcements. So it is interesting with different toy companies that are, again, kind of how things work. Transformers does just feel like a rare bird.
Something just dawned on me. Do other brands have enough news to have a dedicated website for them? Because like if you look at Toys News, NSI, whatever it is, do they ever talk about Transformers on there?
No, because they have their own Transformers site.
There you go. Like there's so much freaking news for it. Like, there's multiple, comics, but like I feel like everything's probably has some shitty comic tie-in. Maybe they don't anymore. I don't know. We got movies and cartoons and shows that are coming and going, and there's rumors about this and that all the time. And there's multiple toy lines at multiple scales. There's Asian only markets, or not Asian, but like the Takara only stuff that might not come out here. There's a lot of that, and then of course you throw in third party, which no other brand has. There's been a few Ninja Turtle things, here and there. Maybe there's been some others for some of the other brands, but like nothing like third party where it can be, you could collect just third party and you would have more than enough toys. It's just, it's weird.
One thing that's interesting is like all of these other toy news sites, like there's like one site with like that aggregates a bunch of stuff. And I guess now obviously social media things are a little bit different these days than what they used to be with all the sites. But like, yeah, Transformers has multiple sites, and they've got and it's dedicated to toys, not just like the properties or whatever. They're it's just toy specific.
And they shun Transformers on those sites. It's like it's such a different thing. You don't hear about the latest wave of Transformers on those sites. You'll hear about the waves of everything else, and they manage to have enough space for everything else.
It's kind of like how if you go to like C2E2 or whatever your biggest metropolitan area's Comic-Con thing, Nerdfest or whatever, like you won't find a lot of Transformers there. You'll find tons of Batman and like Pokemon cards and comics and literally everything else, but Transformers is not included. And I still can't explain any of that, but it's a real thing. Like you might see someone cosplay as Soundwave and walk in, and everyone will be like, "What, Soundwave? Awesome! You win the competition!" But you can't find anyone that has good toys.
Might have like a couple of things they scalped from Walmart. They're trying to resell that just came out, but they're not going to have. Here's my case of Transformers. Like no.
Very rarely, but you can find it. But it's like as a super fan, you're like, "Oh, I got all this stuff. Like nothing here's good." Like it's all like 3 years old and I have it already or something. But
yeah, but again, we're super fans of this brand. Obviously, we do a weekly podcast on it, so yeah, we're super fans of the brand. I've been to a good amount of comic book conventions, and I would say Transformers don't get any less love than G.I. Joe or NECA toy brands would. Because like you'll have the booths that will have like the whole wall of Marvel Legends, or the whole wall of Star Wars, and that makes sense. Well, yes, that's a whole different thing. A whole wall of scantily clad anime girls that Serge just happens to keep walking past 4 or 5 times. But then when you go inside those booths, that's when you start to see, oh, here's Transformers. And to your point, Paul, yeah, most of them are things I already have. It's nothing that I'm really looking for or on the hunt for. But I'd see probably the same amount of G.I. Joes, the same amount of like DC figures, or the same amount of NECA toys. But yeah, the Marvel Legends and the Star Wars Black Series tends to dominate those booths that are specifically like action figure toy kind of stuff. And that makes sense because that's like two of the biggest properties that are out there.
I mean, I know we've talked about this before about what makes like kind of just the appeal of collecting the line versus others, and it's that one of the big things is that every toy is actually different. I mean, no, not every, but it's they're very different play experiences per item versus, you got one Spider-Man Marvel Legends, you kind of got them all, and actually you kind of got like 98% of the line, with what it does. Like, okay, maybe in 7 years there'll be a refresh of the Buck that doesn't show the pins for the elbows now or something, right? But maybe that's a big reason why the rest of them are so stagnant in their, kind of like play value or, uniqueness that it sets us apart.
I remember when I had mansplained that to Paul about the sharing of the Bucks for Marvel Legends.
Pretty sure he knows.
At the time, he didn't.
Oh. Must have been a while back.
Whatever. I still don't. I'll tell you what. I still don't give a shit.
I don't know.
This is it's interesting discussion because we're talking about the leaks, but what I feel like we're trying to do right now is like define what makes Transformers different from other toy lines that don't leak and try to find the answer there. And I'm not sure we have, and I'm not sure we're going to.
Other than it's just larger. It's whatever reason it's larger, I think, is tied into that.
Well, there is also the Asian part of it too, where like that whole market is kind of a mystery to us in the U.S. Like I've traveled to Indonesia for my what happened? Oh yeah, I got married, so my honeymoon or whatever, that thing you do, and stopped in Singapore both times on the way in and out, and it was weird time of night, but there was a toy store in the airport, and I was like, I'm fucking checking that out, and it was crazy. They had all sorts of stuff. It was like a huge mountain in the middle of the airport of like stuff that wasn't even out in the United States. Like at the time, it was like end of, oh god, it was like MPM, Barricade, Elita 1 and Hunger, which had not, and the Terracons for Power of the Primes, and it was just like, holy crap, I've never seen any of this stuff. And so, the reason Asia gets this stuff earlier is because their proximity to the source of the stuff is a lot closer. That's why you always see those pictures of stuff like in a store, and it's like a crazy shelf where there's just like a mountain. It looks like it used to look like 10 years ago, where there's like a mountain of Transformers behind it, and it's all stuff that's not out yet, and it's a mix of like store exclusives that you'd never see on the same shelf in the United States because the rules are different in the other countries.
They're also, like I said, next door versus we got to load up 8,000 shipping crates and put them on a big boat, and it's got to take a long time to get all the way over there, and it still has to be distributed.
Yeah, and they do have there's a sticker that is often put on the back of the packaging is made for the US and like whatever the multilingual side of it is, but obviously they gear it towards the US. And in Hong Kong or Asia or whatever, they have to, at least the stuff that I see that's been sold out of Hong Kong, they have to put a sticker on the back of the box that kind of like, I believe it's like, this is only supposed to be sold in Asian markets, like not for sale in the United States or something, like something like that. But if you see that, which I just saw some stuff on Dime Chalk of like core class toys, and if they show the whole box, you'll see that Asian, that like it's all kanji on the back of it. I'm being a bit, it's not English on the back of the box. Maybe more accurate.
But that sticker is followed as much
not
as
American.
like when you were in. Those stickers are followed as much as when you were in high school and the website said you had to be 18 to enter.
Right. I'm just pointing out what they are in case people see them.
Distributed and also in countries like Singapore versus America. We're a really big country. I mean, like, yeah, there's bigger or whatever, but, we have places coast to coast. It takes a long time to distribute all that versus Singapore. Or even, Japan, like those are much smaller, compact countries that, like Singapore, my understanding is like there's no rural area in Singapore. It's all just the city, basically. Like, that's my understanding. I'm not a geography person.
A bustling metropolis.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it's small enough, it can do it. And, it's crowded enough and like they're full. Like, go away. They don't want more people. They can't handle it.
Ron asks, why is some Transformers stuff packaged in North America? Is it?
What? Is it? My understanding is it comes over the boat. It's done.
Yeah, it doesn't. It's definitely packaged before it's shipped to the U.S.
Unless
like
he's talking
maybe
about,
Fun
like,
Pub.
do they put the slip covers on the stuff from Hasbro Toy Shop?
Well, that is an interesting question because that is like that's the equivalent of the sticker, but it's the way Hasbro, because that stuff is Japanese. You know, like it's sourced in Japan. It's Takara Tomy stuff, and then Hasbro imports it and then puts that around it. So that's like a separate.
I feel like that
may
Paul's
be done somewhere else.
That's Paul's white will, is knowing the full story behind that, how it happens, when it happens, and why it happens.
Yeah, actually, you're right. I would love to. This is a great mystery to me. I'm like the only guy that tends to care, but I'm always curious on what the sleeve is going to say, you know, and stuff like that. Because every time I get a box, I'm like, woo! It's Autobot Gunner. It was Metal Hawk or something.
It's weird. I'll give you that. Like, I still think it's weird, and I would love to know the story. Is it a fuck you? In a way, is it? You know, it's odd.
It's funny. I was at a toy store, thrift store kind of thing yesterday, and they had some of the Gen Select stuff on there that had the slip covers, and I couldn't find the name of the freaking toy on the box. I had to like Google what the thing was, and it was Snapdragon, not Snapdragon. It was a Snaptrap. But I'm like, oh, okay, this is what the freaking, code thing meant. Like, this isn't an MP. What is this?
So
that's what blew my mind, is when Paul told me, he's like, no, the MP, the Masterpiece slipcovers, he's like, they don't say what it is on it. It's like it's branded and stuff, but like, it's like they go out of their way to not say what the product is. It almost feels like, where in China, they put the sticker, hey, don't sell it here, but it's kind of, down here. They're like, no, you really cannot sell it on a shelf in the U.S., and we're going to put this whole box around it to discourage you from it. And if we see you selling it without this box, and it didn't come from our factory, or from a retailer from us to begin with, we're going to be mad.
So, Paul,
but
my question
we don't know.
Is
it's interesting.
Have you or would you get one of those black boxes AFA graded? So that way you don't even know what the hell it is. It just says MP17 or whatever kind of deal.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I'm doing that. Like, I haven't done it yet, but I'm doing that. Yeah.
I think the thing that cracks me up as well about that. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Paul.
No, go ahead.
I'm gonna AFA some blind bags.
The first one I think they did that for was Prowl, right?
Yeah.
And that was like the whole thing that you and I discussed, Paul, was like that was MP 18 plus. And so the idea with that slipcover was like they're kind of they looked like they were going after the NC-17 sort of black with the white labels and the white letters around it, the white letterbox around it, but they've just stuck with that.
It does look like when you
it was a gag. And then somebody took it as like, oh, this is how it has to be, I guess.
Yeah,
it's like NC-17. It's like what you think you're looking at, but it's MP 18 plus.
Yeah,
that's what it does. So, which do you think would confuse your wife more, to AFA grade one of those boxes or some like McDonald's like changer toys or something?
What is my wife's
like? I'm just saying, like,
just
a common
the
average person.
Yeah.
Like, if you just had whoever that doesn't know anything about like all this, it's like, why the hell do you have this graded?
I feel attacked. Like, this is not the conversation we were supposed to have tonight.
Sorry, it always interests me, some of these types of things that we collect. Like, I feel like the same way about, just a lot of the things, but like things that like Rick collects or whatever that he'll bring up, because like a lot of times we like some like weird off the wall stuff that's like very rare, but like the average person, like if you showed them like Transformers flip-flops or something, like they'd be like, okay, what's the big deal? And you're like, no, like these are exclusive from like when the movie first came out, and they're just like, who cares? Like no, like, here, let me show you this Transformers toothpaste. Like,
that's why you really got to collect for yourself and not for showing anyone, and you got to be okay with no one ever seeing it. which is why most people keep it hidden in a basement.
There is a good chunk of Rick's collection, though, that I felt like if you got a new cleaning lady, like suddenly she'd throw out half his stuff. Like, oh yeah, this old.
What are these
McDonald's
used
wrapper
paper
that's
plates? What are these empty popsicle wrappers? You know,
Mr. Rick, not here.
The kids get hungry and like eat the like Transformers applesauce or something. He's
start
like, no,
vomiting.
I'm saving that for like that was 10 years old.
No, we gotta pump your stomach.
Put it back. Put it back.
Not like.
I was about to make a joke about speed dials. It's like speed dial toys and control. Like, no one uses speed dial anymore.
It's called your phone.
You know.
In general.
Can I tell you what some of my favorite leaks were back in the day, real quickly? No. I'm going to. You could say no, but I'll tell you. The era of the leaks where you'd get the instructions for the toy and the instructions would have a different head. And it's like, oh, snap.
And then some of those didn't come out.
Now. Yeah.
Yeah. Like that still happens.
Yeah. Like the Cyclops looking dude that was the lug nut head.
Huh?
Wasn't it one of the lug nut toys that had a different head in the instructions that kind of looked like what are the
when you say Cyclops, he is a Cyclops. So
yeah, no, it was a different Cyclops. I'm sorry. As I said, I remembered. No, it was like more of like a dome kind of head with one eye. Looked like the Zeus or whatever from Gundams that are the bad guys.
I had no idea what you're talking about, but I can help you because I actually do have an example that exists. If I remember correctly, Senator Ratbat, which was already a remold of Scourge from Classics or some sort of Chug era stuff. Senator Ratbat was a Japanese exclusive, and on the instructions for that, it showed Leozak, a Leozak head.
Really?
And that never came out.
I remember the one that I always remember is the RTS Laser Prime that had the different head that didn't get used until FunPub dusted it off and used it for like their second version of Shattered Glass Ultramax. Or no, it wasn't the second version, it was the first version, I guess.
Was that the skull face?
Yeah.
That face always made sense to me. Did someone just be like, I'm making a cool skull face for this robot? Like with no real reason? Like, was it going to be bludgeon? You know? Like, that would seem insane.
Well, we started using the word pre-tool, I feel like, around in that era.
Yeah.
And I think it's just like they designed everything with like, what else could we do with it? And I get the feeling like they make the main version first, and then they would edit the instructions for the second version they were going to do. And someone's like, oh, it's time to print instructions. And they're like, well, grab the latest version. It's like,
yeah, maybe.
It's got the new head on it. Whoops.
Yeah, because, I mean, they did that. That was a neat trick. It was like they just made sure the mold had extra heads on it. And then they could, I think as Rick sort of explained, they gate things, so it like doesn't go to that section.
Except sometimes they didn't. And apparently they just chuck them in that case, but whoops.
Yeah, and melt them back down or something.
Yeah, the one I'm thinking about was for Hunt for the Decepticons lug nut, Voyager scale lug nut. Looking at the instructions right now, I'm trying to, I don't know if I can like show this, but this was the head that we never got.
That's a really cool blurry image.
That's
fucking more blurry.
Kill me, please.
Yeah, more than pixels.
I mean, it's some of those have come out. I don't have a solid memory or list of ones, but like some of them have been pre-tools
some of them
that
were more than
come
heads too. Like, wasn't it like we got an iron hide, but the instructions were for Ratchet or something like that? I feel like once where it's it's a little more like there's an ambulance bar on it or something. Or
yeah, I was gonna say, how do you even tell on some of those like gray instructions what the
look at this Starscream toy. I think these instructions are for Skywarp. I'm pretty sure.
The craziest leak I feel like that happened was for Power of the Primes, where like literally the entire line got leaked. Like, I don't know who it was that leaked that, just like every single image. Like,
I don't remember this, but I believe you.
It was
that was one of the first times where we got like.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, that was one of the first times where we got like the entire like series or multiple waves got leaked online.
But now that's just
it's kinda
commonplace.
Yeah.
But I think the difference is I think that like whatever graphic was the one that they like would send out to retailers or whoever. Like there was something that is like an internal thing that should never get shared kind of deal. Like, and it was essentially almost like a checklist for the entire, like the whole Power of the Primes line. And
that was so awesome. That was like the funniest thing ever when that came out.
Like, Paul, what do you describe that as? Like, who, like those promotional materials, who would that normally go to? Would that be like the buyers, or would
maybe? Yeah, probably. I mean, I don't know if they don't give people a list, But the reason they probably do use that, like they probably have a meeting and now it's all a webcast and it's like, here's the things your distribution center or wholesaling business can buy over the next few weeks. We're taking orders for this stuff soon. And they don't, the reason they don't just like send you a spreadsheet is because that is very easy to distribute.
Right.
That's why they don't do that. And so they almost like do some sort of phone call or, auditory transfer of information that then you need to write notes down while they're talking. And so maybe it's that with visuals.
Right, but like I would think that if you're the buyer for Walmart or Target or somebody like that that's like big enough, that they probably do give them like certain materials and not just an auditory like over the phone like, hey, here's, what do you want? Like they probably actually give them a presentation on.
Yeah, they definitely, like Walmart gets their own call, okay, and Target gets their own call,
right?
But like Entertainment Earth and whoever else is like sort of a small time. I mean, I don't know. I don't want to say small time, but lesser than.
But they're not Walmart.
Big box store. Yeah, they may be on like a general call of some sort, or I don't really know for sure. But I know that there is some sort of presentation that might be used internally, like. If the team in the U.S. is going to tell the team in Asia and like Japan and Takara Tomy, like that might like subsidiaries of Hasbro, they have to do some sort of presentation, and maybe that's what that was for. And someone dumb enough to work at the company that was there spread that around. Because if I remember correctly, someone in Hasbro Asia got like fired after one of those big leaks.
They had to have, because if I remember correctly, I think that there was an actual cease and desist that came like for TFW, because I remember, or like whatever, the various news sites, like it got shared like, in the morning, and like by the end of the day or something like that, it was down.
Really?
Yeah,
I mean, the damage is done. So.
Oh, right.
Soulcraft points out how they were watermarked as well with like the employee's name. So.
Well, how about the Power of the Primes? Or not Power of the Primes, but the thing that just came out, Cybertron Metroplex, that leaked from clearly Family Dollar, like for some reason. Do you remember that?
Yes.
And it had like the guy's name all over it.
Yeah, like John's in trouble.
Yeah. Charlie Wilkins is fired from Family Dollar. Like, was Family Dollar really going to buy the $150 wholesale price on that toy, guys? I don't know.
Like, I could see that Hasbro would be like, hey, and we send these things to everyone, right? These information packets or whatever. But like, to go through the effort of branding it for Family Dollar, like, did somebody go through and put those watermarks, or maybe it's just automated watermarks? Like, you can do that. You can automate anything. So maybe that's why, and just Family Dollar's on the list. But like, it's like a mail merge basically. Joe Bob at FamilyDollar.com. What's his company name? Family Dollar. You run it through the thing, and it sends all your emails out and puts the watermarks on them. And now that guy's fired. So
doubtful.
Looking back on, the dude on this leak that went out that has the Power of the Primes leak, there's a dude's name all over it, Rafi Rodriguez. And I heard that guy got like in deep shit and we got tossed.
Oh, I'm sure.
But looking at this, there's like remnants of it on YouTube and stuff. What was interesting is they were showing, this was so early that they were breaking down the waves and telling you what, this had to be for buyers to be like,
yeah,
this is what's going to be in this wave, and this will be in this wave. And some of the products had actual images of the product. Some of them were just like Rodimus Unicronus was just a drawing of Rodimus Prime. And like Optimus Primal fan vote, again, was a picture of, I think, Masterpiece Optimus Primal, and then a drawing of Primal Prime. So it was very early. It was very early because they didn't even have enough stuff to show you. A lot of this was previs. So like they had Voyager Grimlock, they had Voyager Starscream, they had a render of the Elita 1, they had Hunger, but it was the G1 toy. They showed Inferno, but it still looked like it was digital. But like, yeah, this stuff was so early, it was almost like you couldn't believe it. But it was so weird that it like had to be true, and it totally was. So every single thing on this list came out in one form or another. How pissed would you be if you just spent all this time making this and you're like, no, it's not gonna go out for like months and months, and there it is out in front of everybody. You'd be going, Raffi, we got something to talk about.
I think being secretive over toys is stupid. Period. Like, it's funny to me that like we got to get lawyers involved to send cease and desist over our children's toy line that's going to come out in a year. Like, who cares?
Sure, it's stupid and who cares? But this is money. I mean, this is literally the business they're in.
I just don't understand their plans. How the list for Power of the Primes toys matters to anybody other than Hasbro.
I mean, like, there is an entire third-party ecosystem outside of this that it fucking matters to. They want to know this stuff, and that affects Hasbro's bottom line, whether you want to admit it or not. So, I
guess that needs to be another show then, because I don't understand it. Because like, what does the retail stuff have to do with anything?
Do
you mean generic third party?
How third party like takes away from Hasbro?
Power of the Primes is doing. Not for mainline crap.
Right. That's my argument.
At least not today. You know, they used to do chug fill-in stuff. They don't anymore.
Well, didn't you already say tonight that you think if you're in charge of this, you want to be in charge of the narrative of your brand and blah, 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 and be in control of it? You said that's a good thing. Well, this would be not being in control of that narrative.
See, this goes back to my point earlier, though, this goes back to my point, though, that the other brands in Hasbro go through and make it like a part of their presentation to show what toys are coming in their pipeline. You know, so I'm not sure why Transformers brand doesn't do that a bit more.
Maybe it's just too much product.
It's a lot, yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of psychology with the first time you see or hear about something. Like, you're more willing to buy it right then, and if you even wait 10 minutes, you didn't buy it, you're done. So like when you hear about it before it's there to be purchased, you know, you are literally losing sales that could have been straight on your direct to consumer website versus like a retailer where you're getting less money.
I tend to be a little blind to stuff like that sometimes because I'm very patient and pragmatic in my purchases. Like, I'm gonna, you can tell me today it's coming out in 3 years. Cool, I'm patient. That's fine. You know, either I like it or I don't. I don't get cooled off too much on that. But yeah, there's truth to that.
Yeah, but
a lot of people want to buy when they're excited about it. And they love like the Hasbro Pulse drops. They get it caught up in it, and all of a sudden they've got $400 of stuff pre-ordered. Or if they'd known about it 6 months ahead of time, they'd have bought $30 of it. You know. So yeah, I guess there's some of that. It comes back to people being stupid. But yeah,
psychologically weak. Yes.
The big lick I always think of is just that Shatterglass Alpha Trion. That like FunPub was just so pissed off about that. Like, they showed up on eBay, like over 100 of them showed up on eBay. It was massive, like just a massive theft from the factory. And like, I remember FunPub being like, no, we had to get in contact with the factory and kind of like ream them out. And for a while, like, we kept getting leaks from eBay until they eventually kind of sealed that up. And at this point, I suspect maybe they even shut down, you know, eBay auctions for that stuff now. Maybe they have a better relationship with eBay to make sure it doesn't happen. So obviously it still gets stolen and sold out a little bit just through back channels. You know, a lot more difficult than putting it on eBay, listing, you know, 100-something BotCon toys before they come out. But that was always interesting, and I feel like actually had change at the factory at the end of the day. Or at least
I think FunPub was small enough to care. And you know, again, their run was small enough for like, hey,
100 toys matters.
Every single one we sell, like, yeah, big deal. Like, Fun Pub wants to be in the business of their toys being worth a lot more because that means they're going to sell out immediately and less time for them to sell out. They don't care that they're not. Well, actually, they probably do, because then they'll have an extra, and then they can make, if they want to, they could, you know, sell them themselves for inflated prices now. But they probably just cared more and had the bandwidth to do it because they're not drowning in minutia deadlines of being a giant corporate entity. So, you know, they're able to focus their attention where they want.
Take it more personally.
Yeah.
Which, you know, NECA and Super 7 probably can do as well. You know, like, if it does happen, like, I'm sure they're really annoyed with some of the Ninja Turtle knockoffs that are widely prevalent, but it's like on like 2 sets. The original Ninja Turtle Mirage set and the movie set, the 6-inch movie set for just the Turtles. Like, both of those sets have been knocked off back and forth, and I'm sure they hate it, but, you know, there's not like a whole lot of stolen from the factory early. Some Super 7 stuff showed up early when they started their Ninja Turtle line in stores. And like somebody bought one of them, like some reviewers did have some of that early. Actually, I just remembered that. Yeah. And like people are like, oh, he must have a knockoff. It's like, he just lives close to the factory, guys. Like, this is coming in 2 months to the rest of us. It's just like, they're like, no, it must be a knockoff. That's why the hips are kind of loose and stuff. Like, no, he just lives next to him. Some knockoff company doesn't have literally everything looking exactly the same, including the packaging. You know, not to say it can happen, because I'm sure it can, but come on, like, y'all just don't want to admit that Super 7 has floppy joints. And I have a lot of Super 7 stuff, and they do. So, not all the time, usually not so bad that it can't stand or whatever, but shit happens. Wait, wasn't there's supposed to be a knockoff of Blackout before he comes out? Is that what that was? Wasn't there a Masterpiece figure that was supposed to get knocked off before it came out? Do y'all remember that?
I heard about that, but I don't know if I ever saw it.
Yeah. Anyways,
I have no idea. Is the Masterpiece Blackout out? I don't follow those at all.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
You had the Last Night Megatron. There was that third-party KO company that had the oversized toy out either right at the same time or maybe even a little bit before the mainline Hasbro release toy was out. And so that was pretty darn funny. Because that was like almost better looking proportion wise. They did, it was weird. Hasbro did both a Voyager class and a Leader class of the same Megatron. And then this company got the Voyager class oversized with a little more detail added to it and out pretty much at the same time as the general Hasbro release.
Like, how many other toy brands see that as well? You know, where they can get a hold of stuff ahead early enough to be able to do something like that. You know, because I would assume that means it has to have its own molds. So, like, that's really early that they got in on that stuff. That's very interesting to me.
To Paul's point, it makes a lot more sense that these are going to have a longer turnaround time to produce, given the number of parts they have. Yeah. And then when you got something that's a movie tie-in, I'm sorry, Rob, that was your point. Paul's not smart enough to think of that.
He was getting there.
He was. I love you, Paul. But then when you have a movie tie-in like that, yeah, you want to have everything ready to go by a certain date, so it's all on the shelves on drop date. And so you probably have a bigger lead time for something like that then.
Speaking of, have we seen all the toy lines for Rise of the Best yet?
We've seen like 2 or 3 leaks.
I feel like
I'm surprised more of that isn't out.
Stuff has been like kitty stuff or like those masks that they've had. Like we haven't seen. Yeah.
Which, like, that makes me wonder: are they sitting in a warehouse? Or did they get the news about the postponement early enough to stop production?
I feel like they did, because I don't feel like the change really affected much, believe it or not.
Okay.
Like, it doesn't feel that way. And something I want to point out is that, I don't know if you know this, but like legacy product, so like Generations mainline, is on a different, an alternating cycle with Studio Series. and then there's probably actually 3 slots. So this next coming year, January is Wave 4 of Legacy, and then it's April is Wave. I guess let's just be sequential and call it 5, and then October is it's January, April, July, October is those release dates.
So the first month of the quarter.
Essentially, yeah. And then Studio Series is like February, June. It's an alternating month. And this has been happening for years. I just think most people don't realize it. But like when new stuff shows up at the store, it shows up by toy line, not like, oh, here's Wave 2 of Studio Series and Wave 2 of Legacy. It's always staggered. You probably just don't really notice it. And then on top of that, then we had Cyberverse, which now will be Earthspark. So I think like every month a different like toy line will have their product dropped. And so the leaks also follow this pattern.
When does Selects fall into that pattern? Or is there a pattern for it? Or is it just worked in, you think?
It's a little haphazard, but I mean typically it'll be on an interval. Similar. There's the proposed time things are supposed to come out, and there's like the actual
when it happens. Yeah.
But they still kind of vaguely fall on a cycle you can follow. But then weird things do happen, and usually that's retailer exclusives. Like all the Target stuff dropped at the same time as the Walmart stuff and the Amazon stuff. It all kind of remember the Amazon stuff was not supposed to come out till like fall. The crappy Wreckers stuff. And they're like, hey, this stuff sucks. You can have it early. And everyone's like, yay.
And then they had stuff where, like, what was supposed to be, like, the second set was actually the last one that finally came out for whatever reason,
Well, just because they reveal it in a certain order.
It doesn't really matter.
Doesn't mean jack and shit. So, but here's something weird, and you can consider this a leak and current. Supposedly, Velocitron Wave 2 Deluxes are, like, about to appear at Walmart, which I'm like, what in the hell? But if you go by the leak cycle and within, because we've already seen Crasher, so like there's been reviewers or someone, there's been photos of the Crasher toy, so that means it's being made, and that was like about a month ago. I think I remember seeing that Crasher toy, so that like alarmed me because like, wait a minute. That's coming out. No one's even mentioned that, except other than we found it, like in listings. And so there's still a Shadow Striker as well that's supposed to come with that. And then so are they going to repack existing Velocitron stuff with that, like Cosmos? Like maybe Cosmos won't be as hard to find as we thought. But that's just bizarre because that's coming out almost too quick. We haven't even heard of it. Like it'll just be another thing that comes out that wasn't promoted.
Well, the very first Velocitron stuff, I mean, it came out pretty quick, like compared to like when they officially announced it. So I could see where like Wave 2, could come out pretty quick again as well. And since like they don't have to worry about timing it with a show, like you would think that Wave 2, they're probably going to want to have it like it's August, like they're probably going to have something in the fall.
Yeah, maybe. It's just last time with the Netflix stuff, it was like one wave per year.
Yeah.
So this would be just be different. Would be different.
Yeah, but I mean, right now, again, is a great time where stores want to have toys on the shelf because this is when the kids are doing the back to school shopping. They're in the store with mom and dad, and this is different than shopping for Christmas time because like Christmas shopping is mom and dad going to the store without the kid. This is, the kid going to the store with mom and dad to pick out the new backpack and new Trapper Keeper and all that fun stuff. So, yeah, I'm sure the stores, that's why they do those resets in early August.
How about that person that found Minerva at Walmart? Did you guys catch that like a few weeks ago?
The Walgreens exclusive that turned up at Walmart.
I was thinking about that, and I was like, how did that happen? I'm like, oh, they both start with W-A-L, and someone just, looked in the... Yeah, just a whoopsie. I bet you your ass there's a Walgreens like on the same road as that Walmart, because when the Buzzworthy Bumblebee stuff showed up at that Walmart, there was a Target literally across the street from that Walmart, because that happened in Illinois. That was last year, if you heard about that. But that's just. But the bizarre thing about that to me is that I'm like, okay, Minerva's showing up at Walgreens. Like, if they didn't just send one box like across the world to Walgreens.
But
like,
to me, that's got to be like a distribution center thing, because I don't think they would send it right to that store itself.
Well, not necessarily. Like, the managers can just order like the solid cases, you know.
Yeah, but Walgreens, like, I don't think Walgreens gets the number. Each Walgreens store doesn't get the number of units like you would at a Target or a Walmart. Like, you know, with some of the Black Series toys in Marvel Legends, they would get like 1 to 2 figures of an exclusive.
Again, it depends on the manager. Like, if the manager's into toys, they understand that shit, they can be like, "Oh, I know, I'm gonna sell."
I don't know. I feel like back in
5
the day,
cases of this.
Walgreens got like an excessive amount of some of those exclusives. Where you go in there and there'd be like 20 of like Namor or something. Like, what the hell?
Poor Namor.
These are never gonna sell.
Yeah, the yellow suit, Daredevil, Namor, Medusa. Yeah, those were peg warmers.
You know, I think a lot of this stuff is like, it happened with Ninja Turtles too. Is that there's a brand, the brand is hot, and then like it sells out just due to demand. But then, you know, less savvy scalpers find out about it after the point, and so then like for a while it's just the scalpers buying it up, and then eventually they get tired of sitting on the stock, and so they quit buying it. But people are still ordering gobs of it to feed the scalper market that, you know, ends up just returning it a few months later, or you know, whatever. Like, because like that happened with Ninja Turtle stuff. It used to be so hard to find at Target, and then finally they kept making more and more until like you had like the Splinter and Baxter set that was just clogging shelves. Yeah. You know, and it's a great set, and it's Splinter. Who doesn't want a Splinter figure, right? But it's just oversaturated, you know.
Yeah, Wingnut and Screw Loose is not hard to find.
Another great set, but you know, it's like it just throws their numbers out of whack so much.
Yeah, but a lot less people are gonna want Wingnut and Screw Loose than want it. Like, like
Bebop and Rocksteady.
Right.
Yeah. So one thing with like, you know, thinking of like leaks and Masterpiece leaks is that the Masterpiece Cliff Jumper, quote unquote, like how is that still not like announced?
Right?
That's crazy.
Like, there's no way that's not an official product. I mean, there's always a way, right? But there's totally going to be an official product. And it's just like, and it's like, instead what happens is we get Trailbreaker and Jetfire announced, or Skyfire announced instead. And like, it's not like we got leaks about those, you know, like that I'm aware of. Like, not that wasn't, you know, planned promotional stuff. Like, yeah, you might see a blurry image from a, you know, a Generations magazine or something right first, but you know, that was still promotional. It's odd. And then we haven't heard crap from Beast Wars, but who knows? Where's that leak? I want that leak, please.
Right. Yeah, that's kind of weird too, that there has not been a lot of Beast Wars announcements.
Well, they didn't make anything. They haven't made a new mold. I don't think they made a new mold last year at all.
My guess is they're waiting for the movie.
Yeah, that could be.
Maybe.
Waiting for that bread to rise.
Coming out, who knows?
What if the next Beast Wars Masterpiece figure is from Rise of the Best? Like, based off of one of those designs. That'd make me so angry. Yeah.
It probably will.
NPM BW.
No, it would just be NPM, man.
Yeah. Does that drive you insane? That Beast Wars Masterpiece is just Masterpiece numbered. It's not like its own subline.
No, because G1, Beast Wars is G1, so
it's G1.
Doesn't hurt my feelings at all. What really hurts my feelings is that we finally have our first, just the numbering in general in Japan. I don't know what school everyone went to, but nothing makes sense, you know. And now they finally took NPM was it 10? Yeah. Now there's NPM 10R, which is the Revenge of the Fallen Starscream, and this is the first like redeco like thing, and they just slap the R on it instead of like calling it plus or whatever. I mean, like what are you guys doing? Like what? Just and then next time they do that, they'll just give it a new number instead.
It feels like sometimes you don't have time to sit and think it out. You're just like, oh, we know we're going to do a redeco of Starscream. Like, well, just put R on it for now. We'll figure it out later. But no one ever does, and it just sticks. There's a video game I play called Path of Exile, and they were talking about it a while back, and one of the creators is like, he's like, yeah, I've been messing around with it on my own time and making what I just call a hard mode. He's like, I don't know what we're actually going to call it when it launches. It's officially hard mode now. It might as well be. That's literally all anybody says, and it was just like an off the cuff statement, but it sticks because nobody else had time to sit down and think about it. It's like, okay, well, and now that's NPM 10R. Welcome to it. But why are some pluses? Some pluses were like the anime editions, but then other pluses would be the toy colors, and the different one would get the mainline stuff like that. That always bothers me.
Well, like NPM 53 plus B now, because they but then they made a new guy named Reboost, and they decided, well, all the repaints are going to be on 53, and they'll be the same. Like this confuses me. I know one mold, the car mode is different on those two NPM numbers, but only like slightly. Like it's not consistent. You just have to be okay with it.
It's like sometimes the plus is a different, or it's the same character just in a different color scheme. Like toy versus anime, it's the same character, but then Skywarp and Thundercracker are sharing the same number. That's not correct.
So weird.
Yeah.
That
Hope someone got fired for that.
Yeah. Fire them all. I'm glad you brought up that MP leak, because really, stuff from Japan doesn't seem to leak very often. And Hasbro and Takara use different factories, so in the end, it all comes down to the factory and then the company directing them. So whatever that relationship is, that's the weak point here. That it's breaking through. And there's ways to get stuff from and it's all just an individual or two. It might even just be one guy that is
they're not paid enough
facilitating this. I have heard things like there's a factory store. That could mean a lot of things.
I know the closest I have to that is in college. For 4 weeks, I worked at Russell Stover's chocolate factory. And there's literally a factory store there. If you're an employee, you can go and shop at it. But it's just like, here's the bulk chocolates that had minor defects that are, they're totally edible and fine. They're just not pretty enough to put in the box. And it's like, oh, here's 5 pounds of chocolate for like, $10 or whatever, And it's stuff like that, because they're just like, it's waste otherwise. And it's like they would rather just sell it than throw it away. I mean, threw away enough chocolate anyways, stuff hits the floor, whatever, it happens. Yeah.
Well, another example that stuff is almost never boxed.
Yeah.
So again, they're not doing they're doing that's the last thing that happens is the packaging. And I think it
doesn't come with instructions. Maybe it doesn't have all the accessories. There might be a part broken on it.
I think that happens at obviously a different time after the whole production run's done. And I think I don't know how the factories work. Like if they have a packaging like section and that's in a different part of the factory, or if they go to a packaging factory.
So if they try to sell it, can they list it as complete if the instructions aren't there?
You'll have to ask Megatronus. I just don't know.
Well, see, the problem is the other factories, the people aren't allowed to ask because they're like, we don't know. We don't have time for this. Do you want it or not? They just don't have time to answer such questions. Like, what does it come with? Places to go.
Well, the people the unscrupulous people that provide this to whoever, they don't know. they don't know what they're even like have in their hand. They don't. And they may not even speak English super well. You know, if you're someone that buys from them, they might be like, who's this? Is this worth anything? And you're like, oh, when you see it for the first time, or because it's a photo that isn't on the internet and everyone, you know, no one's seen it, or, you know, it might be just a listing on some weird website in Singapore. You know, like those, they're out there.
I got to imagine like the people selling these might not know who the characters are, but they know they've got something valuable that because it's not available. And so they can make a decent buck on selling something that is not out at mass market yet.
I'm sure they know that, or else they wouldn't be wasting their time. Or, you know, they wouldn't be spending their time.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I just think it's interesting in general. I mean, not necessarily the factory leaks, but like some of the leak lists that have been so accurate. Like you just wonder who, you know, what connection they have to the stuff where they're willing to like consistently feed some of this information online. You know, like I don't know, if it was me, I'm not sure that I would, you know, risk my like job or whatever to, you know.
You're a well-paid employee. If I was a stock boy at Walmart and I can search our inventory for Transformers, I have no problem putting that online. No one will ever track it to me either.
I'm not saying about that. I'm saying about some of the leak lists or whatever that we get from Hasbro for Transformers. Whoever the person is, I can't remember, and I'm sure, you know, some of the people in the chat would know better. That, you know, there's a couple consistent people on TFW that, you know, like will leak some of the line way ahead of time. And they seem like
are those
like somehow connected.
I think if you have a case of you're going through an intermediary, is that the word? You know, like if I had a friend that worked at Hasbro and he sends me stuff, sure, I'll post it for him. Or, you know, like I'll share it along, but I have no connection to Hasbro. Or if it's the internet, man, I can make a new handle. You know, just not naming something that'll be embarrassing in 20 years. You know, or not. I'm posting anonymously. You know,
Spartacus Prime. You know, even that sounds better, doesn't it?
I mean, like a popular thing to do, like I see in some other places for other things, is like they'll put it up on Pastebin, and then you share the Pastebin link to somebody, and then no one knows, did you write that Pastebin? Because, you know, or whatever. It's just like it's a Pastebin. It's not a screenshot, you know, with someone's email address on it. But
I've never heard of that, but
yeah,
I'm curious. I think you're talking about JT Prime is who I think he's kind of the source of most leak lists.
I think so. Yep.
Yeah. So I know, you know, what you kind of was surmising there, Rob, is like someone that has access to the Walmart system is like, you know, working late overnight. It's like, oh, let me search. Blah, blah, blah. I mean, I don't know who he is or anything, but like he has the list for everything. Amazon, Walmart, Target, Walgreens. He gets the product codes and the UPCs or the EANs. I don't know how I'm actually
just so you can have a college buddy, you know?
I think I don't know how he does it. It's actually kind of fascinating. So he does a great job, and he's usually right. And he, I assume it's a he, you know, like. But he has figured out some sort of way to like sift through data that like I have no idea how to do, and I wish I did. Like I want that power.
So this comes back to my conspiracy theory that I've talked about before on the show, that Hasbro is somewhat responsible for this. That Hasbro is okay with this stuff leaking because, or they leak it themselves because now we sit here and do shows and we talk about it and all this stuff, and you know it generates hype.
Hasbro does not care if we do a show or not. Promise you. Actually, I don't know if anyone does.
No, but I'm sure they're tracking things like mentions online and social media mentions and trending of that sort of thing. So, you know, again, do they feel like they can generate, does their marketing department feel like that more hype gets generated when something gets leaked versus when there's an official announcement.
I don't think there's even remotely any 5-head 3D chess moves going on. People aren't organized enough for that. If this is just, shit, somebody leaked it. Because if marketing's going to do it, they're going to do their job, which is to make it present nicely. And when all you got's a list on a pages and like everything isn't necessarily even built, you don't have quality product shots or anything yet. Like they're not going to. And marketing, I mean, who knows how much they do or don't know about the brand, anyways.
I'm often confused when Hasbro does these Tuesday events or something, and they show off. Anytime they have a press event and show, product, and they don't have a link for you to buy it or pre-order it, I'm like, did you guys have to plan these and then the links weren't ready, so you're out in BFE or what? Because like, what's the point if you're Hasbro telling people you got this coming unless you can sell it because you have an online store now that sells direct to consumer?
It's not like you can't put pre-orders on there because you do it all the time.
But they don't sometimes. Like they announced all
they could. They have the means. I was being sarcastic.
Yeah, right. But I mean, it's again scheduling procedure and like deadlines and like just because they're like, oh shit, we got the live stream tomorrow. Craig what are the links? And Craig's like, yo, bro, you didn't put in the request for those. You should have done that 3 weeks ago. Like that's who knows. I live in corporate land, and like this is how shit goes. So I understand.
That's what gets me with the conspiracy stuff. That's like
right.
You're putting way too much faith into large groups of people. The larger the group, the harder it is to get anything done, much less anything coordinated or organized or everyone on the same page. Like we're growing our team at work, and like you get over 4 or 5 people, and like you're already having trouble getting anything done. Because it's like you got to bring in so many people. And everyone wants to bike shed it. And if you don't know what bike shed is, Google bike shedding. And there's a Wikipedia article that'll tell you all about it. But it's just a waste so much time. It's like unimportant crap by uninformed people. But yeah, much less we got some grand conspiracy here for the New World Toy Order. Like I could always be wrong, but I don't buy it in even the slightest.
I'm with you 100% on that.
So I'm not sure that we've actually reached any type of conclusion today.
Did anybody think we would?
No.
I mean, no one changed my mind, so I believe I'm 100% right in all this stuff. So
Did any of us disagree on anything?
Maybe a little bit.
I think my theory is that
Shartimus
because this is a Hasbro-owned brand, you don't have Mickey Mouse and Disney keeping things under tight wraps like you do for Marvel and Star Wars. So things are more likely to slip out. And it's a big enough brand that there's a demand for it. And there's maybe not as much a demand for like you would. Maybe not as much a demand for like G.I. Joe leaks. And the G.I. Joe team, because of smaller demand, they're trying to generate the hype themselves. I'm not sure where Power Rangers fits into that because that is also a Hasbro brand these days. But I think the mouse keeps things under tighter wraps for their product lines.
Well, we saw that Iron Man, like they got knocked off, and Disney raided that factory. Compared to Transformers, which has a very big fan base but a small team behind it, versus Marvel, which has a huge fan base and a huge, corporate team and stacked of corporate lawyers. Meanwhile, Hasbro couldn't even Rick has made it clear before that everyone in the company hated third party, as you can expect.
Mm-hmm.
But they never could do anything about it because it just wasn't worth their time and money. They didn't have the money to throw at it, to start fighting that type of stuff.
Yeah.
And now here you are, and it's where it's also so somebody sold Prime versus Prime some toys early, whatever, they're still going to buy them from us, and it's just, we have 3 people in marketing, for the Transformers brand or whatever. Are they going to have time to hunt this down and do no, they're trying to do other crap or something. I don't know.
Oh, it's not only they're going to buy them from us, it's that the retailers have already purchased them from us.
Right. Yeah. It's
you
probably
gotta
a combination
remember,
of both.
You got to remember Hasbro Pulse is a new thing, separate from Hasbro proper. And like Hasbro's real job is to sell stuff, to sell their products in bulk to very few entities. You know, they got to make like, each brand has to make like 5-6 sales a year, and they're good. Whereas Pulse is doing the exact opposite. It's like, you know, B2B on the highest level, and then B2C on the lowest level.
I feel it's probably a safe bet to say that if Hasbro had a bigger staff and more money to throw at things, that we'd see less leaks from the factory at the least. Yeah. You know, maybe, you know, not less leaks from the corporate side of things, because that's just so easy to do and hard to trace, you know. But unless they started like legally going after like TFW, you know, and then trying to get like a big major lawsuit to say, TFW, give us the IP address of the people that leaked this, because, you know, they've broke corporate law and this and that. Like, it would be a big nasty thing, and you know, they're just like, well, who cares?
No,
you know,
I will not give up my sources.
Yeah, so like, I'm sure if they had enough, they would do it. And it's just a case of, until the beatings stop, the leaks will continue. So, or until they start, maybe.
Yep.
Well, I appreciate it, guys, for joining me tonight. You know, thank you, and thank you to everyone in the chat. We mentioned book club this week is going to be Optimus Prime Annual 2018 and Till All Are One Annual 2017 First Strike The Signal. That is, join them for book club on the tftalk.net Discord Sunday nights at 9:30 Eastern, 8:30 Central. Thanks to everyone in the chat. Thanks to Zaldron, Ron. Thanks to ParaPX. Thanks to Soulcraft. I think that's it. So, anyway,
remember, don't believe every leak you see. They're not always real.
Go. There you go. Well, thank you guys, and we will see you next week.
Bye.